Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks an idea of what's going on locally, both here in Bourne and in the rest of the Cape. And with me today, I have Will Shain. Tell me what your title is.
I guess I call myself President and Executive Director.
That means you're just working for yourself.
That's correct.
Okay.
Party of one and with a board of 7 more.
Okay. Well, Will, you have a kind of an interesting, situation. I understand that you're involved with providing transportation for people who have trouble getting around. And since it went in one of the lives that I led, I was on the Regional Transportation Authority, here in the Cape. I'm really curious as to what you do.
Well, I've always been community-minded. My wife and I moved into Plymouth 15 years ago, but it became obvious when I started networking with many different individuals. And I was approached by the Chamber of Commerce years ago about, could you facilitate a meeting with some social service agencies? They can't seem to focus on what's important or how to get there. Everybody kind of knew that transportation was an issue, but how would we make that all come together? So I spent a year back in 2018, 2019 just facilitating meetings with these groups, and we came up with a solution. We felt that we couldn't answer all of the problems that were associated with lack of transportation, but we could fill in the gaps in significant areas so that individuals, seniors no longer driving, as well as individuals with disabilities could get to where they needed to go on time, and that was the genesis of what we call the Greater Plymouth Area Social Responsibility Consortium, which was way too much to pronounce. But
that makes it sound so important.
GPASRC it just rolled off the tongue. But we tried it in 2019. We went on a trial run and it worked great. So by 2020 we were rolling, and the program has just expanded from there. It's been an instrumental part of getting people to their doctor's appointments, dental appointments, getting to work. And I'm pleased as punch that the individuals that had this original idea from these social service agencies saw some talent in me to at least organize, and have stayed with me through all of this to make certain we fill out the needs of the community.
Did you have a social service background?
No, I during the day I'm an executive business coach, and I got to that profession by having an undergraduate degree in microbiology and a master's degree in allied health science. So the answer is the only social organization we had in my family was my daughter, who today is a school psychologist, but she always told me what was right and wrong all the time. But I was very focused on facts, data, scientific explanation. But along the way, I learned how to work with people, manage people, lead people.
I got my MBA at Babson, and one of the things that they did, they recruited me to be an academic coach. So I have been talking to students, and I've been fascinated by the fact that they were all over the place. My career, was not as focused, you might say, as yours was. But I appreciate the fact that that accurate data is very important. Yeah. Although I do know that I spent a lot of time reading Maroney and How to Lie with Statistics because I was in sales. So you do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting back to the connection. Did you work with GATRA? Do you know what that is?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
The Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Authority. Absolutely.
Now, who does that in Plymouth?
Well, I mean, the GATRA was one of our partners.
Okay. So they are. Okay.
They are. So they appreciated that what they did was significant with regional transportation, but they acknowledged that there were gaps in their ability. Mm-hmm. So if you have an individual that can't get to a predetermined spot to be picked up, and they can't be delivered back to their home, and they're not able to walk those final 100 yards or whatever it may be, they saw that opportunity. So GATRA early on, before we were a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we couldn't directly apply for grants in our own right. So GATRA was one of the grant writers for us. They prepared with their nonprofit status, and everybody in full knowledge that they were assisting us They went out and received, we've received our first, I think it was a $50,000 community transit grant. And they were the ones that authored it, and so it went through them. Whenever we had rides, we would simply document them, and GATRA would pay the Lyft organization, which is the rideshare that we work with, and we would manage that process. But it was in 2022 that we received our 501c3, and it was 2023, last year, we had a full year of being able to write our own grants, and we literally this month finished up the final penny of the grant, the last grant that the GATRA organization had provided or helped us to secure. So we're on our own now, we're flying, and wings are getting tired, but we're figuring it out.
Well, I find it interesting you're involved with Lyft because on the Cape, the RTA on the Cape has something called a flex route, and the flex route was installed, sadly not across all of the service, but on the lower Cape, so it will go 3/4 of a mile in either side, of. Now, does your organization, is that what you're suggesting, as far as the pickup part of it?
We can pick up anybody right now in the Greater Plymouth area, but we are now expanding over the Cape. We have had situations where individuals originating in Plymouth or surrounding areas had crossed the bridge and been deposited in various communities on Cape Cod. But now we see an opportunity to expand our organization. We had a good, successful grant season last year, raised more than we'd ever raised before.
Mm-hmm.
I could see some light at the end of that tunnel, and it's not a train coming, it's all good stuff. So we've just, in the last 2 weeks, brought on a new organization, the Kennedy Donovan Center, to assist us with special needs students who are coming primarily from Cape communities and don't have completely dependable transportation to get to Cape Cod Community College. These individuals are greater than 22 years old, so they aged out of their school programs. Mm-hmm. Their parents can take them to school sometimes. They can get on the Cape Cod, the RTA, but they get deposited in areas where it may not be safe for them to cross big highways to get to where they're going. So we're going to figure out a way for those 10 students right now to get started to make sure they can get to school and get home and get their associate's degree or certificates that they want to pursue so that they can be more independent in life.
Let's talk a little bit about how would you set somebody up for something like this?
Okay, it's a model that doesn't involve a lot of us with a hands-on. We are the organization that manages the invoices that come in on a monthly basis from the Lyft organization. We're the ones that allocate where the bills should be paid. All of the partners that we work with have dedicated half of the cost of the ride from their treasury. The other half comes from the grants that we receive. So we're administering all that back-end administration. Prior to 2024, we had the services of the South Shore Community Action Council. They acted as our fiscal agent. They worked tirelessly for us for 5 years. Their CFO, Cheryl White, constantly updating, providing a guy like me all the metrics and data that I required to be able to monitor the program. But after 5 years, I mean, it's like anything else. You start to get tired, and trying to find a good accounting people to fill onto your staff has been very difficult across the entire country. So we agreed that we would move on. So we have secured an accounting agency in South Yarmouth. And we're very pleased with the way they've set everything up. We've moved from Excel spreadsheets to QuickBooks Online. All of that administration, the agencies don't need to worry about. But what they have to do, to get back to your question, is they have to schedule the rides. So we provide them with a direct connection into the Lyft Concierge desktop scheduling system. We cannot and do not currently operate with an app, so something has to be done by the third party. It's not me, it's not the rider, but it's in fact the organization that the rider's coming through. We can't take single individuals and work with them currently, but we're looking for ways to do that. So the organization then gives us the name and emails of individuals. They could take a phone call from somebody that needs a ride and schedule that ride in software that looks like an app, but it's up on a desktop. Get them that ride, get them delivered where they're going, and arrange for their return as well. So that's what they provide. They put If they give me $1,000, I match it with an additional $1,000. I handle the administrative part. They just get on the PC, order up the ride, and the individual's delivered to where they need to go.
So we have things like council on elders. We have things like council of aging
Yeah.
in each one of the communities, all 15 towns.
Sure.
What I'm surprised at is that if you had a focus on the South Shore, because I'd lived in Rockland, for a couple of years, I'm surprised that it didn't encourage you to go north rather than south.
Oh, it just gets busy as you go north, and I think that I can't speak for what their coverage is, but the Attleboro community has a similar model. In fact, we copied off of their model to begin with. We think we've improved it in many ways, but they're managing that area. The business model that we put together is exportable anywhere. So I could take this model, I could train somebody else pretty quickly on how to come on board. If they want to fill those gaps in their transportation models in their communities, no reason why they couldn't do that. So occasionally I get a call from towns that want to at least talk about it. My last conversation, for crying out loud, was with Indianapolis, Indiana. The Old Colony Elder Services Group, or I'm sorry, Old Colony Planning Council Group had attended a national meeting, and they were talking about our program. And a couple of groups in Indianapolis said, we need something like that. So we got into that conversation.
Those of us who have been in the great Middle West, appreciate the fact that they were actually willing to talk to us, because usually they view those of us who live closer to the Atlantic Ocean as being very elitist,
Well, I guess I live a charmed life, and it probably helps that I worked in the Midwest for 15 years.
Oh.
And if I had just departed that career 3 years earlier, my daughters might still be with me. But they found good men out there. So one's living in Indianapolis, the other in Northeast Ohio. So I don't think they knew that, but maybe they could feel it when they decided.
Northeast Ohio, Akron?
Further
wait a minute.
north.
Northeast Ohio, the foothills of the Appalachians.
Not quite. Okay. So the center part of the state is Columbus,
Yeah.
and you kind of go north and you hit Cleveland. And anything to the right is Northeast Ohio. So my daughter's in Fairport Harbor. We used to live in Chardon, which is very much a New England style community.
Like Chagrin Falls.
Yes, Chardon is just within a few miles of Chagrin Falls.
I remember that. In another life, I was a national sales manager, and I actually got to 49 of the 50 states, doing that. So, yeah, we have a wonderful country. I mean, I might kid about attitude, but there's something for everybody here.
No, I agree.
Okay. Now, have you, in your conversations as far as expanding your operation to the Cape, are you in communication with with our RTA?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I would encourage you to talk to Kathy and to Tommy Cahere about this, because one of the things that was lacking, in my opinion, is the connection to Lyft, because that makes a lot of sense because of the flexibility you can get, from Lyft.
Sure.
And the other thing that the RTA here does is that the drivers, for folks that are disabled, will get out of the bus, go up to the door, and and basically make sure that things are happening.
Sure.
I also find that is any of your operation involved with what I'd call Meals on Wheels delivery? Okay, so
No.
basically just getting from one point to the other.
Sure. So
Now, in terms of case studies, is there any particular example that that speaks to how your service has come to the rescue? Do you have a story?
I guess I have lots of little stories.
Well, little stories are good. This is cable TV.
I believe that there are individuals with special needs who might have started in Project Forward programs while in high school, who may be taking or have taken advantage of the Macy's program, which is a program for 22 or older. But these are individuals that want to work. They have special needs, and they may not have dependable transportation to get to work. And as a result, TPP has been instrumental in when their families can't help them, or when the hours of their employment are such that a regional transportation is not available, we can pick them up at work and take them home. So now they can work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night if they want to.
Well, that's very important. I worked retail in both, Best Buy and Stop and Shop, and your schedule was not a consistent schedule.
That's correct.
And the fact that you're able to support that, I think that that's probably something that is going to make a lot of people very happy, because I had not met anyone who was in a situation where they had to depend upon transportation that wouldn't be delighted to have that, let's say, to have that connection.
And I can think of another individual that was that wanted to, in fact, Stop and Shop is a great example, who wanted to go from her job at Stop and Shop and actually assist in one of the town committees, but the program didn't start till 7. And she didn't get out. She gets out of work at 5, and her family can't come over at 5 o'clock, deliver to the meeting, sit around in Plymouth. In fact, she lived on the Cape. So this gave her the opportunity to go there, get a ride over, and get a ride potentially to home, or to have her family pick her up at 8 o'clock at night. So that was that. The last example I'd give you is we have an association with Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital in Plymouth, and unfortunately,
It used to be called the Jordan, I think.
I'm just starting to clear that. I've only lived in Plymouth for 15 years, so it was Jordan for quite a while. And there was
Having grown up in Plymouth, we watch you people. You're all transients.
Okay, so we have an association with Jordan Hospital, Beth Israel Deaconess.
Yes.
And of course, they see a lot of individuals, unfortunately, that are opioid addicted that have crashed, and they're going into the emergency room to be saved. If you don't, from the time you stabilize them and discharge them, don't get them to a treatment center, which is always a big challenge. Treatment centers are overloaded. But if they just go home, their recidivism rate just climbs. So TPP can pick up those individuals as they're discharged from the ER and take them directly to their treatment centers. When that happens, the success rate is higher. So everything from hospitals to social service agencies with individuals with developmental problems. I can think of another group is the Bethesda House that works with young mothers that need assistance with children, can't get to the doctor's appointment, whatever it may be. They started off as a tiny little organization for us. They had limited funding, and they most recently have made one of the largest donations that we've seen from a local agency, because they want to, this program has worked for them. And so they're extremely happy that they can get these mothers-to-be and young mothers to where they need to go to get good health care and stabilize that portion of their life.
Prenatal care is so important.
It is.
And one of the issues are not getting into that as soon as you need to. I'm going through my second cycle. I had 8 grandchildren. Now I have 5 great-grandchildren, about to be 6.
Wow. I look forward to the day.
Hey, listen, there's nothing like it.
I have 3 grandchildren, no great-grandchildren.
Okay, well, all my grandchildren finished college, and they're into their lives. It's scary.
No, I appreciate that.
Looking at that, especially when you see your children turning 65. And say, where the hell are you? Where does that time go? Well, anyway, in any case, that prenatal thing I think is so important, because the best start is a good start. One right. One that gets you to where you need to go. Now, do you think that you really need an app? As far as making for individuals to have access to your service, or would you rather, in the best of all possible worlds, continue to have let's say, a communication and a contact, through another organization? What is the best business plan for this?
Okay, so that's a great question, but it has a couple of different perspectives kind of rolled together in there. No, we don't absolutely need an app. Our program is working very efficiently. You know, we implemented a complaint system early on so that people could communicate to us if there were problems. And we had some issues with individual drivers, and Lyft had a way to block that driver from ever seeing that rider again, and vice versa. We had some situations where charges were overcharged. We had a ride quoted from Plymouth to Mashpee, $125, and it came in at $500, and we were able to reverse that, get that fixed. So there's something to be said by having that kind of control in a central terminal with a third party. But we have situations where occasionally, drivers for the Lyft organization, it would be the same for Uber or anything else, they have free will, just like we all do. And they can accept a ride and at the last minute decide they're not going to take it. If we've sent somebody to Boston for a special treatment, and at 6 o'clock at night the driver cancels or doesn't show up, we got somebody stranded downtown Boston. How do we get them back? And the agencies themselves have been able to manage that. If we had an app, and the individual had a smartphone, and we provided them a minimal amount of training, it's conceivable they could solve their own problem. So we're going to explore it. I have a brand new board member. Frank Carmichael is a unique individual, just moved into the Plymouth community about a year or so ago. Frank is very technology driven. As he and I both say, occasionally we're in between great opportunities. You leave an opportunity and you're waiting to see what your next one is. He's kind of in that situation, but he's also a unique individual in that he has been blind since birth. So we have these incredible conversations going back and forth. He's now my interface to Lyft to determine if there's some way we can adapt that app to bring it into our system. And that's not something that's going to happen overnight. But that's fantastic. We have another individual just joined our board who is 30 plus years in the MBTA. So he brings a transportation perspective, right?
I take the MBTA on a regular basis to go into Boston for plays and such. And although I rode that Rattler, in high school over 70 years ago, and it never broke down that I can remember. It was never comfortable, but it seemed it would get you from point X to point Y. And right now they're going through all of this brand new equipment that doesn't seem to run right, and all the rest of it. So let's hopefully his experience was back when it was more reliable.
I believe that was the case, but he also continues. Even though he's at retirement age, I think, still continues as a consultant in the transportation industry. So he brings a unique perspective that we're pleased about. We're looking for anything that would improve the service level, that would potentially apply to more individuals that have those needs. I think I opened up by saying, we're not the answer for everything. The regional transportation is still important. It's almost like in a medical situation where you have an emergency, you got to triage the patient, So if regional transportation works, if the family can't help, if there aren't friends that can jump in, if there isn't a cab that can pick them up, and they're going to miss that appointment, call TPP. And if you're built into our agency partners, we're going to get you where you need to go.
Well, what I'm perceiving here is that. With all of the other transportation opportunities that are there, you're finding a niche, and that niche is basically to respond to the people that fall through the cracks, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you also mentioned earlier the councils on aging. So we have another program that's a modification that's with the Center for Active Living, our council on aging in Plymouth, and so that's an example of us having a collaboration with Cal and with GATRA to provide transportation funding to help offset their costs when they're taking Plymouth residents from a lot of different areas in Plymouth, taking them straight to the CAL, the Center for Active Living, and then taking them home. So it's services they couldn't otherwise have taken advantage of. Now they can. They call that the Cal Express, and we implemented that, I want to say, in that might have been mid 2022, but last year we did about 2,100 rides there. And did about 5,000 rides with our conventional lift model last year. So we're becoming a little more significant.
When there's any startup, or any, let's say, or any expansion of an organization, there's a creation of what I call a benchmark.
Yes.
Okay, so what would be the benchmark of your expanding on the Cape and staying here?
What would be our benchmark? Well, I'm not sure. You're going to have to give me rephrase
okay.
that a little bit.
I've been involved with companies that have sort of a lyrical approach to we're going to get this new market, but there's as you know, there's a foundation that has to be built. There has to be some, let's say, some guarantee, not guarantee, but some evidence that there's really support for, for what you're trying to do. And there's also the business of having enough, let's say, employee support, let's say to deliver it.
Sure.
So, having said all of that, what would be the criteria for success in the Cape?
All right. So the ideal agency partner for us is an agency currently serving a needy population. Most of the grants that we receive are for those that have disabilities, I call them differently abled, as well as individuals that are senior, usually 60 and older. But I think there's also a need for veterans, and so talking with veterans organizations to see whether there's some interest there. We've taken some veterans on rides, also low income. So we have an appreciable business with the Plymouth, I always get the acronym wrong, but the homeless shelter that we have in Plymouth. So what's the benchmark? We need one organization to show interest that we can show the model works. That may be the Kennedy Donovan Center and the Cape Cod Community College and Plymouth North and maybe 7 or 8 other Cape high schools, all focused down to one agency, KDC, who you need a ride, you just call us and we'll set it up within the TPP system and we'll get that person to where they need to go. Okay. With that success, next question is, who else would like to try that?
Well, actually, we've now come to the end of this program, and now's your chance to have what do you want folks to have as the main takeaway?
I think that the reason we do what we do is that there's more to life than just working and going to bed at night. You want to help your community. So this is, I think, an opportunity for us to expand not only our usefulness, but the concept of what we do to other communities to help them fill in some of those gaps with a program that essentially, it's half the cost for the agencies, and it fills that need where somebody can't get to where they need to go. Interesting closing remark, taking people places was an acronym. TPP was part of our transfer pilot program early on. When we asked for help in naming our organization, it was an 11-year-old, Dylan Balder, who was the son of one of our board members, said, taking people places. So we want to make sure that we're that model, if you will, to help take people places where they couldn't go before because of the undependability of transportation.
Okay, so how would they get in touch with the organization?
We are so level loaded, they contact me. We have a website that'll be opening up pretty soon, but I provide my cell phone, I'll provide my email, I'll talk with anybody that wants to have a conversation.
Okay, and we'll have that kind of information on the bottom third, underneath your name.
Sounds great.
Anyway, I want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank the viewers for taking the time to find out more about how to get around, how to go to places here in the Cape, and I hope that you've learned a lot, because I certainly have. So with that, I want to thank the viewers for watching, and you've been watching a production of Born TV.